So when we're talking about density, this is how much or how many particles are stuffed inside of an object. Okay, so we looked at particles in solids, liquids, and gases last week. Okay, remember solids have more particles densely packed together than gases do. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about a basketball and a bowling ball. Okay, which of those two do you think is more dense? The basketball or the bowling ball? The bowling ball. Why do you think that, Tanaya? Because it's heavier, okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, it's harder, good. What else? Comparing a basketball to a basketball is heavier. A bowling ball to a basketball? A bowling ball to a basketball. Yeah. Yeah, it's more dense, right? The bowling ball. Okay, so if you look inside of a basketball, what's inside of there? Air. Air. What do the particles of air look like? Are they closely packed together or are they spaced far apart? Space. They're spaced far apart. So there's lots of space, empty space inside of a basketball, right? Compared to a bowling ball that's just plastic or rubber or whatever all the way through, right? Yeah, it has some really thick, heavy stuff inside of it, right? Okay, so that's just like our pictures up here. The bowling ball, the particles inside are tightly packed together, where in the basketball, the particles inside are spread out and not as tight. Okay, so that is the idea of density. Okay, so today we're going to learn how to calculate density based off of our formula that they talked about in here. Okay, so on your worksheet, the first part, I want you to write down everything that I write down, like notes, and then we'll work some example problems together. Okay, if you're somewhere where you can't see the screen, you're welcome to move somewhere else. Okay, so let's look at this. Here's our formula for density. Density is mass divided by volume. So we're going to fill in our math triangle. What do you think goes in the top of our math triangle? Mass, good. Okay, the units that we're going to use for mass is grams. Okay. Okay, and the right-hand side is volume. Oops, volume, spelled it wrong. Okay, so for volume, we have two units that we can use. We can either use milliliters or we can use centimeters cubed. Okay, everybody writing this down. Okay, so that leaves us with density. We're going to use D. I know that's a little different than what you saw in the video, but I think it's simpler for all of us to remember. D for density. And because we have two choices for our volume, we're also going to have two choices for our density. So we have grams per milliliter, or we can have grams per centimeter cubed. Okay, so put a divided by sign between mass and volume. Put a divided by sign between mass and density. And then put a multiply sign between density and volume. Here you go, Bryant. You can copy this down. Okay, so let's look at our first example problem here. Our first example problem Number one, the density of this block is. So we want to figure out this block over here. What is the density? So we need to know what is the mass and what is the volume. So right here, it tells us that the mass is 12. So we know this portion, but it doesn't tell us the volume of this cube. It just tells us the length, the width, and the height of this block. So does anybody remember how to calculate volume? Think back to your math class. Multiply. Okay, so we're going to do the length times the width times the height to find the volume of a regular shaped object. Okay, so if we can measure the sides, then we can figure out the volume by multiplying. Okay, so we're going to take 3 times 2 times 4, which gives us 24 centimeters cubed. So look at the units here. Centimeters cubed we use for a regular shaped object. Okay. Okay, so we're going to use centimeters cubed for a regular shaped object that has length, width, and height. Okay, then we're going to plug it into our formula up here, mass divided by volume. So the mass is 12 and the volume is 24. Okay, so when we're doing this, please make sure whatever's in the top, the mass always goes in the calculator first. Okay, so whatever's on the top, the mass is always going to go in your calculator first. Okay, remember that this line right here means to divide. So you're going to push that divide button. Okay, so in your calculator, type 1, 2, divided by 2, 4, equals, and what are you going to get? 0.5, perfect. Okay, so let's look, we have 0.5 grams per centimeters cubed. So we're using centimeters cubed because our volume was in centimeters cubed. So you got to make sure that your units match up with what you have in your problem. Okay, so for this first one, this is going to be choice A, 0.5 grams per centimeters cubed. Okay, I have one more example problem. It's on your plastic sleeve. It's not on your worksheet. So people at home, if you want to take a screenshot of this so you have it, that might be a good idea. I'm sorry? Can you go back to the first page real quick so I can take a picture? Here. You're welcome. Okay, so we figured out volume of a regular shaped object. Now we're going to figure out the volume of an irregular shaped object. Okay, irregular shaped object. Okay, so this is like a rock or marble or something else that does not have length, width, and height. Okay. Okay, so to do this, the first thing we're going to do is fill up a graduated cylinder with water and read what level that water is at. Okay, so for this example, our graduated cylinder is filled with 30 milliliters of water. Okay, next we're going to take the rock and we're going to put it into that graduated cylinder. And what's going to happen is that water level is going to rise. So the rock displaces the exact amount of water that is equal to its volume. Okay, so now read the new water level. So for this one, it's now at 35 milliliters. Okay, now to figure out how much volume our rock takes up, we're going to subtract those two volumes. Okay, so I'm going to take 35 minus 30, and I get 5 milliliters. So I know that this rock has to be 5 milliliters because the water went up by 5 milliliters. Does that make sense, Javier? Okay. So everybody okay with that? Okay, so some of the problems that we do today are going to be just like this. Okay, so let's look at question 5A at the top, the back of the first page, or the top of the second page. Okay. Adrian, you still using that one?
I need
You need that one? Okay. Okay, my numbers are different on here. I just have a different worksheet, but it's okay. It's the same exact question. Okay, so 5A is talking about George. It says, George put 25 milliliters of water into a graduated cylinder. After adding a solid object to the water level in the cylinder rose to 45. What is the volume of the object? Okay, so how are we going to do this?
First you're gonna fill in the chart.
Okay, so before we get down here to part B, let's finish part A to find just the volume. Okay, so it gave us 2 different milliliters, just like this example of the graduated cylinder. Okay, to start with, it had 25 milliliters, and to end with, it had 45 milliliters. Okay, so we're going to subtract. So on this 5A, okay, so on this whole worksheet, part A, you're going to subtract the 2 numbers. Okay, so 5A, 6A, 7A, and so on. All the A's, you're going to subtract the 2 volumes. Okay, so we have 45 minus 25. What does that give us? Okay, so 20 milliliters. Xavier. 5A, flip your page over. Come on. Okay, so we're going to take this 20 milliliters, and this goes down here for part B.
For B?
Okay, yeah, so 5B, we're going to put 20 milliliters for the volume. Yeah, that one. Okay, now we're just going to do a regular problem. So it says, the object George is examining has a mass of 15 grams. What is the density? So I'm going to put 15 grams right here, looking for density. Okay, so what is the formula for density? Density equals what?
We gonna add it, right?
20.
Multiply it. Divide it.
Yes, mass divided by volume. Okay, so remember this line right here means to divide. Okay, the next step is to show our work. So we're going to take our numbers and we're going to plug them in over here to our formula. So D equals 15 divided by 20.
In the red, what does that say? That
Divide. Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, divide. Okay, plug it into your calculator. Remember, the number on top goes in your calculator first. So put 15 divided by 20. What do we get? There you go. 0.75. What units are we using?
The unit?
Uh-huh.
Milliliters?
Good. So we're going to use the milliliter. So make sure that whatever units you had here match over here. So this is grams per milliliter.
So this one when you help us with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can I go to the restroom?
Okay, y'all do the next one, 6A and 6B. Okay, try 6A, 6B right now.
I might need help with it.
Drink a lot of water. You don't drink a lot of water? I do drink a lot of water. Oh, sure. I drink too much water. Too much.
She laughing at you.
You should get your keys up.
I put it on the floor.
I know. Make sure you get your keys up. Oh, that's what I'm doing. You're so while you know.
I don't have.
All right, here you go.
This is my lane.
Thank you. They're gonna make you wait.
Because my house is not wrong.
Why did your house wrong?
Because my mom and my mom did it.
I guess I'm gonna say, yeah, but you have to lock your door, like, what's she trying to get
I
at?
don't get it.
Does she know some kids got shot in the
Okay.
Recently?
neighborhood?
That's not good.
And there's some little man got
Oh no,
and robbed.
that's not good. My house is the only house on my block that hasn't been broken into.
Has it?
Correct.
Oh, lucky. Probably
Hey,
not.
that's why we got dogs.
Across the street, there was a car stolen like last week.
That's crazy.
I don't know if it-
We all got some sort of hand.
How was that?
You got that.
Behind my door. And
What are you gonna do with the
and I
tennis
also have a
racket?
knife. I have a knife under my pillow.
I have a crab under my pillow.
I have a butterfly knife. I have a butterfly knife.
Wow, y'all stop and do your work.
Me?
6A, 6B.
Do you have to do your work?
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a bit.
I kind of don't understand you. That's what I was saying.
You know, two coffee when you have two coffee when you have.
What is the volume?
Oh, it came off.
All right, y'all got that one done?
No, not you.
Okay, let's look at number 2. Let's make sure you did it right. I'm sorry, number 6. Okay, 6A, Mary put 30 milliliters of water into a graduated cylinder. After adding a solid object, the water level in the cylinder rose to 65. What is the volume of the object? Okay, so what do we do for this one? Subtract 65 minus 30. What'd you get? Okay, 35. Perfect. 35 milliliters. So now we're going to take this number and put it over here for the V. 35 milliliters. Okay, the object Mary is examining has a mass of 55 grams. What is the density? So mass is 55 grams, and we're looking for density. Xavier, you got this one? The answer is no, I can see your paper. Okay, so formula is D equals M over V. So this is 55 divided by 35. So check your paper. Make sure you set this up properly, that you put the mass on top and the volume on the bottom, because if not, you're going to get the wrong answer. All right, so when you divide those, what'd y'all get? There you go, 1.57 grams per centimeter cubed.
Yes, you're going too fast for me. My brain can't process it.
Perhaps it's because your phone is in your hand.
You just dropped it. I don't know. Didn't we do it before?
This quarter means from how long you get through.
All right, y'all, let me know if you have any questions. Y'all work on this, get as much done as you can today, okay?
Can you work from the back of your phone?
Work from the back and then forward. You can work it in any order that you would like to work it. All right. Hey, Jeremy, how's it going? I just saw you jump on there. Yeah, if you're finished, I'll take it. Alicia, is Alicia here?
What?
All right, y'all on Zoom, if you know what you're doing and you don't have any questions, you're welcome to get off the Zoom. I already got your attendance, okay?